Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. This is my summary of the work we've done on Twitch. This week we started a new project called Dulcimer Players Tools, and the idea is to build a little toolbox of things a musician might want to work with, a tuner, a metronome, various logs, and make a little app out of that. This past week we started off creating the front page. Within that, the first tool was a news page, then a first lines tool for mountain and hammer dulcimer, and finally a jam log we started but didn't get terribly far on. Let's see a demo and take a code walkthrough. So here's the first page. It's basically a screen with a list of tools. I don't really care for this yellow, but we haven't addressed that yet. So the first tool is a news tool. And really, it just takes you to a web page that has some notes updating you about DP News, which is the sponsor of this app. Okay, the next one is a first lines index. And so this is for a given set of songs. This gives you a basic idea of how to perform the song. So if it's a song you sort of know, but you don't really remember, you might say, how does Liza Jane start again? Oh, it's 2010, 2010. All right. Those 201s, they represent the fret numbers on the mountain dulcimer. So mountain dulcimer is a laptop instrument. It's got 3 strings in general, and it's got frets. And so these numbers are tablature, tab, and they tell you where the frets are. So which fret do you play at a given point? So if you play those frets, many, but not all dulcimer players are familiar with tab notation and would be enough to trigger a reminder of what the song is for them. I've sorted it based on what we call tuning. You have 3 strings, you might tune them different ways. So DAC tuning gives you kind of a minor sound. DAD gives you a major. There's tunings. There are probably 10 or 20 tunings in relatively common use. Most people stick to a couple, but there definitely are people out there doing multiple different tunings. All right, and we let you sort things. So you can sort them by name as I've done here, or you can sort them by tab. And this might be if you were thinking, I remember how something starts, but I don't remember how it goes. If it's like, oh, it's bump 2-4, it might be Soldier's Joy, Mississippi Sawyer, Wildwood Flower, and hopefully the view of it in that order would suggest neighboring ones that might be the right song. Okay, but normally I think you'll stick to the alphabetic listing. Hammer dulcimers have a similar tool, but for them, they don't use tablature. Hammer dulcimer looks kind of like the inside of a piano, and you play the strings with hammers. Mostly, I think for most of them, this form of saying what are the notes names, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, kind of standard music notation notes, could be sharp or flat or neither. Now, I'm probably going to modify this a little bit. I think this form is kind of the most accurate in some ways, but it's also kind of hard to read. It's very busy. I'm going to move to more this form where I use the slash to say, hold that note. And I don't worry about eighth notes and dots and more complicated rhythms and so on. Just kind of get the essence of a song out there. All right, and for them, we'll sort by notes rather than sorting by tab. And you might see, okay, here's a bunch of songs that all start A, B. That's at least interesting. It might suggest the right one. All right, and then the last thing we worked on was this jam log idea. And this is something I do and I know others do. When you're in a jam, you keep track of what songs did you actually play, and you'll record the last date that you performed it. You might have some extra notes for it, but this lets you come back in later and maybe you want to, hey, we haven't played Mississippi Sawyer for a while, and you can see that the last time was 6 months ago or something. You also might want to see like, how often do we play this, or, how much have we played it this year or something. So I really do want to get to the point of having the full list of all the dates you performed things, but we don't even have data entry yet. So we've got to start here with this. This starts with the same song list that came for the first lines, but you should be able to add your own songs because lots of times you'll learn a new song or two and want to add that in. It doesn't necessarily go in your song first lines index, although we could probably make that true. But being able to have it in here is important too. So you should be able to add songs and add information about the times you played them. Okay, let's go look at the code, and I'll keep it relatively brief. So this content view is the top level view, and it really is just the board's background and the title, followed by a list of tools that you might use. And these are the 4 we've defined so far. I do want tiles. I probably want them more laid out in a grid, but I'm just trying to get some things moving first. And we've improved it a little bit here and there as we go. Okay, so the first tool you'll see there is the link, which was that news. This link says open the web browser with this URL, and there's not much more to it. The browser says, okay, put me back onto the main screen when you're done. But that really is, this link is all there is. Okay, the others, they're all managed with tile wrappers. A tile wrapper says, tell me the title, tell me the name of the icon you want, and give me the view that you want me to show for it. And so in each case, we've just made one view that represents the body of the tool. So we'll go look at those in a moment. First, I want to go to the sort of data model. It's pretty restricted, but if you have songs, we have a file. Well, let's pull it over here. First lines just has, for each song, it's got an ID, the name, key, time signature, tuning, the tab of the first line, the notes of the first line, just as data in this file for each one of those songs that I showed in the list. Okay, and so for song, it really just represents that data, and we can sort by it, we can show it, whatever we need with it. For now, I've just made these types be strings. So type alias says, pretend when you see tuning, it's really string. It's not quite a macro, but it's a very primitive typing mechanism. And so I haven't needed any more complicated stuff than putting these things in a string. At one point, I thought I was going to make a very complicated, put the whole song in and keep track of the notes and the rhythms and all that stuff. But I realized, for the purposes we have, the tab or the notes are pretty sufficient. We may make them more complicated later, but not for now. All right, and with songs, you also have collections of songs. So you've got an array of them, and we can ask for characteristics of them. What are all the tunings? What are all the keys? And then we can ask for the list sorted in some library order, which is either name, tab, or notes, okay, corresponding to the little sort buttons we had. And so there's 3 methods that correspond. You can get all the songs, you can get the songs for specific tuning, or you can get the songs for a specific key. So this list will probably grow as we find other ways to sort and go through things. All right, but not much else to it. So far, we've got pretty simplistic models, and I suspect most tools will be that way. Things you use a lot, little note takers and stuff, they're not really all that complicated. Fancy word processors, yes, they do get more complicated. Okay, so let's look at the view for this mountain dulcimer list, the first lines list. All right, and so this view has the picker, which is the sort order up top, and then just a list sorted by tunings, goes through all the tunings. For each tuning, it goes through all the songs that have that tuning and displays them according to this first line view tab, which we will see up here, I guess. Yeah, so it just shows the name, the key, the time signature. All right. And if there's tab, it shows that next. Okay, so very simplistic. The hammer dulcimer one is almost the same. It sorts by notes instead of tab, and it doesn't do tunings. It just has a flat list, but it really is very, very similar. So I'm not even going to walk through that. But we will start looking at the jam, and I'll start with the entry view, which isn't accessible in the application yet. We just started working on this last thing on Thursday. But we're going to let you enter the name of a song. This is really a lookup for the most part, if it's a tune you know, or a new one if you don't, So you might enter a new name here. The date, I'm going to default it to today, the current date. But you could be coming in, you might have written them on paper and you're coming in the next day and, you need to set this back. It's a little calendar picker. All right. And then remarks that correspond to this performance. We played it in a weird key or whatever's different about it. But once in a while those happen, and I wanted to capture those. The rest, well, I think at some point we need to pull in some information about the song. If you match a song, you need it down here. If you didn't match it, you probably need to enter it. Okay, so that'll correspond to those song fields most likely. Mostly it's a simple addition, and really that's coming from performance. All right, we keep track of which song it is, what's the date, what's the remarks, and we're going to relate, the performance ties to the song in the library. All right, for the jam log view we have already. Again, it's just mostly like many of these things, it's a list of stuff. We look up the keys and we want to list for each key, list all the songs that correspond. All right. So we run through this, then we do for each based on that key and put out the songs. And that's it. the log.keys already has it sorted by key, and, within there we'll get this songs will give us sorted by the key itself. All right, so each line corresponds to jam log song. All right, and I don't have a preview for this one. I probably should put one in. It just looks up the last performance and formats it nicely and builds a date from that. If there's no last performance, it just leaves it blank. Otherwise, it attaches the date. So you see the song name in bold, the song tuning, and the formatted date if it exists. All right. Coming up this week, we're going to continue working on the jam log. We're going to take that data entry screen, fill it out the rest of the way, and integrate it in. We're going to have song level remarks. They don't exist in the first lines index, but they're a characteristic of our jam log or our song list. I don't know. The more I'm thinking, maybe these need to be the same kind of things. I don't know. Sometimes you get a jam where this particular jam has a standard list of songs, and other times you just keep track of what you know. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Sorting. We do some. I'd also like to be able to sort by kind of popularity. Which songs have we played the most at this jam? Not a big deal, but interesting sometimes. And then finally, persistence. This information, it piles up into, there are probably a couple hundred songs, maybe a few, maybe more, not thousands or millions, but, a number of songs. They've got performance date for each one and so on. It's hundreds and thousands of entries. It probably needs to be in some sort of database structure. So we'll figure out what we're going to do there and make the persistence happen. Okay, if you'd like to join us, we meet Monday through Thursday, 2 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 to 9:30 p.m. UTC. xp123.com/Twitch will take you to the live session while we're doing that. Or if you go to xp123.com/YouTube, you find the old sessions, time delayed a couple of weeks, and then lightly edited. Hope you can join us sometime. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.